dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
Much of the state is bracing for an incoming ice storm, but here in eastern Kentucky, we also have to worry about flooding. Meteorologist Evan Hatter begins our Severe Weather Alert Day team coverage this half hour. Evan?
That's right, Steve. Already watching an area of rain beginning to push into the mountains. We've seen showers today, more showers this evening and into tonight. And then as we head into tomorrow, that's when those showers turn into some freezing rain. That's why first we have a flood watch in effect for, well, everybody but Rowan County, but we'll go ahead and lump you in too there, Moorhead, because we're probably going to see some significantly, let's say, more rain than usual for at least this time of year. 1 to 3 inches of total precipitation possible. However, some of that is going to fall as freezing rain, and that's why many of us are under either, in fact, all of us, but 4 counties are either under a winter storm warning in the hot pink color there, or a winter weather advisory there into the purple color across the southern part of the region. Either way, the further north you go, the greatest chance you're going to have to run into the significant icing. That's why that ice storm warning is also in effect over to our west for counties covered by the National Weather Service office in Louisville. If you're under the winter storm warning, go ahead and treat yourself like you were under an ice storm warning, because that's essentially what you're going to see even if you don't see necessarily the highest totals compared to central Kentucky. US 119 at Pine Mountain this evening, sitting in the upper 40s. You're thinking, what ice storm, right? We're well above freezing. Well, I-75 at London, a rather soggy scene along the interstate as well. That's when we're going to drop those temperatures a little bit later on tonight. Many of us still sitting in now the middle to upper 40s, few low 50s working through the region. And you see the temperatures a little bit cooler because we've got that next round of rain beginning to push into the mountains as we've gone through the evening hours. We're not done with the rain yet. We're going to see those scattered showers heavy at times, with the temperatures dropping only to around 50 as we head through the evening, so we stay steady. I'll have the latest on the timing and impacts from our potential ice storm on the way in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. Well, the new year started with flooding and snowstorms, and the winter weather shows no signs of slowing down. And as WYMT's Dakota Makris reports, this latest system could pose a number of problems for our road crews.
A roulette wheel of weather to start the new year.
In our area, seems like it's going to start out mostly as heavy rain, which causes flooding issues, may cause mudslides, rock slides, that kind of thing.
And that rain will transition into freezing rain beginning Thursday night and heading into Friday morning, meaning crews cannot pre-treat roads ahead of time. They add once roads begin to freeze, bridges and overpasses will be treated first. Basically, all we can do is just when things start freezing up to get out with the salt trucks as quick as we can and get a coat of salt down to start melting the ice. H.B. Elkins with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet District 10 says you cannot plow ice, and even their equipment will struggle if a sheet forms. Especially if we get a really thick coating of ice, which we're not expecting in our 10 counties as much as the counties to our north and our northwest are expecting. Speaking of ice, Elkins says it will cause issues with power lines, saying gusty winds and weight can bring lines down. We have to wait for the power companies to come and take care of those before we can get the roads clear. Urging drivers to stay home. In Hazard, Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
Elkins says their melting agents become ineffective when temperatures dip closer to the single digits. Kentucky power crews are prepping for the expected winter storm. With ice in the forecast, Kentucky Power spokesperson Cindy Wiseman says they think the highest risk areas are in the northern parts of the company's territory, not so much in the Pikeville and Hazard areas. She says she does not expect this storm to be as bad as last February's ice storms, but she does expect some outages.
Knowing that there's some grid hardening that we can do, we can use different types of materials in our poles and our wires. And so we started doing that to protect us from ice.
Wiseman says if your power does go out, restoration times can vary due to various factors like how hazardous driving conditions are and even flooding. She says Kentucky Power has a helicopter on standby to help assess any damage. Big Sandy RECC is also preparing for potential power outages, working to stock up and roll out as needed. WYMT's Buddy Forbes dropped in to see crews laying the groundwork to hit the ground running.
Big Sandy RECC crews are packing up.
We got to make sure all of our trucks are stocked and make sure we got plenty of help.
And rolling out.
It's hitting the hills because most of our line is in the, up in the hills.
As winter weather rolls in.
Monitoring the weather forecast, and we're constantly checking for updates to the forecast.
Workers are preparing for some long nights ahead as they plan to keep the members connected with the threat of ice covering the forecast.
Our pickups, we call them a rolling warehouse. We try to keep a little bit of everything on our truck.
From the blaring signals to behind the scenes, with more hands waiting in line.
We have line crews on standby that are ready to come and render mutual aid.
But officials say workers should not be the only people preparing for the fallen trees and outages.
Keep a small supply of food and water, a radio and a flashlight, obviously.
Urging, among other things, generator safety.
And if they're not used safely, it can introduce a hazard to our linemen working in the field.
And though they do not expect as significant an impact as the ice storm last year, linemen still ask for your patience in the event of outages, saying everyone has one mission.
If I can turn the lights on, if it's just one person or if it's 100, it makes me happy.
Keeping people safe and the power streaming. In Johnson County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Officials say it's also important to keep an eye on your neighbors in times of harsh weather and power outages, and to make sure you are reporting any electrical issues to the company. Well, we have more local weather coverage and the latest closings on the WYMT News app. If you've not downloaded the app, just take a scan of the code there on your screen with your phone. That will take you to a link to our news app that you can download. You can always find the latest closings and delays along with breaking news alerts. We encourage you to download both the WYMT news and weather apps to stay ahead of any winter storm. Well, Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency ahead of the upcoming storm. Dangerous to impossible travel conditions are expected in many parts of the state, if not all parts of the state, and ice damage to trees and power lines are expected to cause outages. He closed state offices and asked people to stay off the roadways when the freezing rain starts, especially. An executive order accompanies the declaration to protect Kentuckians from price gouging.
If everything holds to where it is right now, this is the real deal. It is dangerous. People need to be prepared and need to be prepared, especially to stay off the roads tomorrow and potentially be ready to deal with this emergency for the next several days.
Before the winter weather arrives, parts of our region, as Evan's been talking about, are also under a flood watch. You can stay up to date with all the latest in addition to our apps on our website at WYMT.com. This month is Gifted Education Month in Kentucky. The Gifted Education Month proclamation ceremony took place at the Capitol Rotunda. Students got to meet with legislators and participate in the proclamation signing ceremony. And Governor Beshear was also there, as you can see, to thank students and faculty. Officials said this year's budget includes $6 million each year in gifted and talented initiatives, adding that the gifted programs offer ways for students to have innovative ways of learning to accomplish great things. Louisville native Whitney Austin is a survivor of the 2018 mass shooting at Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati. A gun owner herself, she has since advocated for improved gun safety measures. Her organization, Whitney Strong, is now working with a bipartisan group of Kentucky state legislators on the CAR bill, the measure which would allow law enforcement with judicial approval to temporarily remove a firearm from a person in the middle of a mental health crisis.
The idea behind this bill is to prevent crisis moments like what happened to me, which is obviously something I'm very passionate about, but also preventing crisis moments of harming self, which is the greatest problem in our state.
CDC research shows 65% of suicide deaths are by firearm, and every 17 hours, one Kentuckian dies from firearm suicide. A Wayne County man is facing serious charges in a rape case. Frank Bray of Monticello is charged with 1 count of rape. Deputies were recently called to the Wayne County Hospital in Monticello after a child under the age of 12 was taken there for treatment. We're told the incident happened late last year and police just collected enough information and evidence to make the arrest. Bray is being held in the Wayne County Detention Center on a $50,000 cash bond. Well, it's a little chilly throughout the region right now, but folks in Floyd County are preparing for some visitors. Throughout spring and summer, Prestonsburg Tourism welcomes in hundreds of guests via motor coach tours to visit Jenny Wiley State Resort Park, see a show at the Mountain Arts Center, or just to experience Eastern Kentucky hospitality. Officials say these motor coaches impact the economy greatly and bring in thousands of dollars on a daily basis.
When you see those big motor coach buses rolling through town and you think, oh, well, maybe they're just passing through. No, more than likely they're staying somewhere here in Eastern Kentucky, and it's such an incredible market for the Eastern Kentucky region.
Johnson says a motor coach can bring in $1,500 or more per day into the region, and there are already motor coaches planned for March, visiting from all the way from San Diego, California.
Now I've got the latest from Pinpoint Doppler and Future View as our severe weather alert day coverage continues. Coming up next, stick around.
And also still to come, we'll take you to Prestonsburg, where a play is hoping to raise money for a domestic violence service.